You've got to admit, that's a title that makes you pause. It's designed to make you question the most basic, automatic thing we do and ask, what if we've been getting it completely wrong this whole time?
I mean, think about it. Your own breathing. Right now. It just happens, right? You don't have to manage it. But what if our entire understanding of that simple in and out is totally backwards? That's the rabbit hole we're going down today.
And here's the first big idea that flips everything upside down. We have been obsessed with oxygen our whole lives. But what if we've been focused on the completely wrong molecule?
Okay, so on one hand, you have what we've all been taught. Breathing is all about sucking in as much oxygen as you can. Big, deep breaths. Good for you, right? But what if the real story is that healthy breathing is about keeping the perfect balance of carbon dioxide, or CO2, in your system? That one change in perspective, well, it changes everything.
You know, there's actually a scientific name for this perfect CO2 balance. It's called normocapnia. You can think of it like your body's original factory settings. It's the precise chemical sweet spot where all your cells, your muscles, your organs, they're all designed to work best.
So why on earth is CO2 so important? This analogy explains it perfectly. Imagine your blood is a train. Let's call it the hemoglobin express. And it's packed with oxygen. Well, CO2 is the conductor. It's the signal that tells all that oxygen, hey, this is your stop. Get off here. If you don't have enough CO2, the oxygen just stays on the train, riding around your body, never actually getting delivered to your tissues and organs.
So if messing up your CO2 balance means oxygen isn't getting delivered properly, you can start to imagine the massive ripple effects. And to really grasp that, we've got to take a step back and look at the whole body, this incredibly complex, interconnected marvel.
You've got your cardiovascular system, your digestive, your nervous system, all of these 11 primary systems. But here's the kicker. None of them works alone. They are all constantly talking to each other. So a problem in one, say the respiratory system, is going to cause problems for pretty much all the others. So just how complex can things get? Well, if you actually calculate the possible combinations of things that can go wrong between those 11 systems, you get this absolutely staggering number, almost 40 million. It's a pretty powerful way to realize why trying to treat just one symptom by itself is like trying to fix one tiny gear in a giant, intricate clock.
Here's another fantastic analogy. Picture each of your body's systems as a swimming pool. What keeps a pool from turning into a green, slimy mess? The right chemical balance. Well, for your body, CO2 is a huge part of that chemical balance. When we're constantly over-breathing, we're basically draining the pool of this vital chemical, and all our systems start to get, well, green and slimy.
Okay, so when things do start to go wrong, when the pools get slimy, our body sends out alerts. We call them symptoms. And this right here is where we make another huge critical mistake. We're trained to see the symptom as the problem itself. But what if it's not the enemy? We need to get this straight. Symptoms are not diseases. They are messages. They are your body's smart, built-in alarm system trying to tell you something's wrong and desperately trying to protect you. And what do we usually do? We try to silence the alarm. We shoot the messenger. Let's use asthma as a classic example of this. So here's the chain reaction. First, you chronically overbreathe, and you start losing way too much of that vital CO2. Your brain, sensing danger, triggers a defense. It tightens your airways to try and stop you from losing any more CO2. But then, we take that intelligent defense mechanism and we misdiagnose it as a disease called asthma. Then, we use a drug to force the airways back open, directly fighting what our body was trying to do to save us. And the author, well, they do not mince words about this. As this quote shows, the argument is, if a doctor provokes this very defense mechanism in a test and then slaps a disease label on it, you should probably point out that they just caused the thing they're diagnosing. And this is no small thing. This isn't just an academic debate. Look at these numbers. We've built a multi-billion-dollar global industry around treating the symptom, the messenger, instead of just listening to the message and figuring out the real, underlying cause. So how can we get a better picture of this whole thing? You know, the relationship between the symptoms we see and the root causes we don't? The source gives us the perfect metaphor.
the health iceberg. Because with our health, just like an iceberg, what you see sticking out of the water is just a tiny, tiny fraction of what's really going on. So that small 10% that we can actually see above the surface, that's the symptoms. That's the stuff we notice, the things we complain to our doctors about, and the problems we desperately want a quick fix for.
And what's on the tip of that iceberg? Oh, all the usual suspects. Crooked teeth, headaches, jaw pain, snoring, chronic pain, the list goes on and on. We treat each one like it's its own separate problem, kind of like just painting over a crack in the wall and totally ignoring the fact that the foundation of the house is crumbling.
But the crack in the wall isn't the real problem, is it? The real issue, the hidden 90%, is that massive chunk of ice lurking beneath the surface. It's the part we almost always ignore, but it's the thing that's actually causing all those problems up top.
So what is this huge hidden foundation made of? It's this whole cluster of interconnected issues: dysfunctional breathing, poor tongue posture, mouth breathing, which then leads to body posture imbalances, biochemical problems, and a nervous system that's just chronically stuck in survival mode. The argument is, if you fix this stuff, the foundation, the symptoms at the tip of the iceberg often just take care of themselves.
So, where does all this leave us? This isn't just about breathing techniques or biology. This really calls for a fundamental change in how we think, a whole new mindset for our own health, and where we place our priorities. Seriously, ask yourself that question. Right now, who is the most important person in your life? We're so busy taking care of our partners, our kids, our jobs, in a life that's full of responsibilities to other people. It's pretty wild how rarely the answer to that question is me.
We've all heard this 1,000 times on an airplane, and we probably just tune it out. But it's not a suggestion, it is a law of survival. If you pass out from a lack of oxygen, you are zero help to anyone. And that makes it the single best metaphor for your own personal health.
Because really, what good are you to anyone if you yourself are not whole? You can't help your family, you can't be good at your job, you can't support your community if you're totally depleted and running on fumes. That's why self-care isn't selfish. It's not an indulgence. It is foundational. It's your primary responsibility. So in the end, every little ache, every pain, every symptom, it's just communication. Your body is constantly talking to you. The only question left is, are you ready to stop shooting the messenger and finally start listening?